The night is dark, with the only source of light coming from the moon, which seems to be perching on the mountains. Xiao Tu and her master, Lu Donglai, head up the mountain, with her master backing her. She instructs Xiao Ku to get familiar with the mountains, while telling her the sect's rules and all she must know. Xiao Tu and Lu Donglai belong to the Mo sect, which consists of 10 members. Lu Donglai's older brother serves as the sect leader, with some of the members as his disciples. Xiao Ku is to respect her master's older brother, but must not be alone with him or learn from him in any way. The young Xiao Tu fearfully asks Lu Donglai if the sect leader eats children like her, but she explains that the reason why she is restricting her from him is that he has developed an illness since the death of their parents. Lu Donglai recalls the early memories of his illness, just as they run into him on their way up. He starts a conversation about Xiao Tu, but his sister quickly takes her away, and he continues to ramble alone. The sect leader, Lu Xiaoji, is obsessed with the 22nd Century game, which is the biggest virtual world game around. He spends his time playing and upgrading to all levels available, till he is unable to go further. He is angry because he is unable to level up again, but likes how the system acknowledges that he is handsome. Lu Xiaoji continuously rambles to himself about his handsomeness and riches, and how everyone else but in the virtual and real world is jealous of his wealth and looks which attracts all kinds of girls to him. Lu Xiaoji thinks that he has lived before in a world where his parents never had any time and were always away till they came around for a divorce. Even in that world, he played games every time. Now he thinks that he is reborn into his present life, with a similar love for games. Lu Xiaoji continues to watch the system as it loads a new level, and soon a new sect mission pops on his screen. Lu Xiaoji confirms his identity to begin his first assignment for the mission, which is to expand and strengthen the Mo sect. Lu Xiaoji awaits instructions to proceed on his screen, but instead, the system notifies him that Mo sect is unqualified, which makes him sad. Though the Mo sect is not one of the highest ranking or big sects, Lu Xiaoji did not think that he would be unqualified. Lu Xiaoji finds the message insulting and resolves to find out why the Mo sect is unqualified. Going through the list of requirements, he finds that everything is checked correctly, except the condition that requires the leader to be in the first rank. Lu Xiaoji ranks as a beginner, and he promises to remedy the situation since the sect has someone from the sword sect. Because of his condition, Lu Xiaoji thinks that there is someone in a cemetery, who is not dead but only lives there, that will remedy the situation. After almost going through with the plan, his sister calls him to order and manages to restrict him. But she is happy that he finally wants to proceed from his beginner rank and offers her help. The next day, both siblings with Xiao Q and Hai Ting, Lu Xiaoji's disciple, set out on a journey together. To level up, Lu Xiaoji needs the marrow-cleansing grass, which is why they have set out on a journey to find it. Lu Xiaoji stares into space in a daze as if he is meditating, and Lu Donglai tells Xiao Ku to copy his meditative abilities to learn the act of cultivation. However, Lu Xiaoji is not meditating but trying to choose a mission from the system. Lu Xiaoji searches the system in search of a mission from the different ones available, and chooses the orange mission, which is commonly played by people with money. Unknown to the group, Master Ning and a companion, who is a flawless swordsman, are tailing their moves from behind. She tells him that she is confident that they will not discover her. She asks him why agreed to follow her, and he tells her that it is out of hate for Lu Xiaoji. Meanwhile, the search party tries to pick the 3 marrow-cleansing grass, which they encountered in the Forest of Flames, but they must first defeat a monster. Lu Xiaoji starts to ramble again that he must eat the grass. Lu Xiaoji brags about his luck, that it is no ordinary luck to come upon the requirements of a mission at the same time without looking for it. Xiao Ku expresses her awe at Lu Xiaoji's bravery to approach the monster without knowing his abilities. Lu Donglai decides to leave the monster to her brother since it is not too strong, but she remains on guard in case he needs her help. From a distance, Ning and her companion look at Lu Xiaoji's attempt to engage the monster and his lack of strategy in doing so. Lu Xiaoji approaches the monster without observing it for any weakness he can use and only screams at the last minute about his blunder. Lu Xiaoji uses his spiritual ability to smash the monster in one move. Meanwhile, Ning's companion, Yu remembers why he hates Lu Xiaoji, but still admires him for his observation skills and fastness. Lu Donglai is displeased at his use of spiritual power, when he can simply strike the monster's head, but she says nothing. Afterwards, the system rewards Lu Chaoji with 1,000 experience points for defeating the monster. Lu Chaoji decides to hurry over his activities in the forest before he will encounter another unpleasant scenario. He cuts one out of the 3 marrow grass and leaves the other 2 for other people who may need it and leaves. Lu Donglai elects herself to look out for a safe place where Le Chao will have his breakthrough. After they left, Ning and Yu Yu check out the remaining marrow grass and wonder why Le Chao did not go with all of them. They decide to store the remaining 2 in a box for safekeeping so that they will not wither away. After looking around for a bit, Lu Donglai finds a place, but Le Chao is not happy with the way she is fussing over his safety. He settles on the neat clearing she found and began the process by eating the marrow grass. Ning and Yu insist that Lu Chaoji can't awaken his attributes after the age of 16, but just then, a golden light envelops the atmosphere, which signifies the breakthrough, and even people from other places rushed towards the forest to see. Lu Chaoji finds himself floating across different planes like someone swimming inside an ocean. In what may be a trance, he tries to grab one of the attributes flowing around him, but he is unable to grab a specific one as they are all far from his reach. He continues to follow around, till he finally grabs a unique and special one that is designated for only special people. In the physical world, he keeps emitting a blindly golden light, which overshadows everywhere, so much so that everyone is unable to see the surrounding properly. Ning and Yu look at the awakening in awe as Lu Chaoji becomes the first person to awaken an attribute that wields the power of heaven and earth. The people nearby that assembled to watch wonder about the kind of sect he represents to have been able to awaken such attributes. The heavenly order has been triggered only a few times before, but as everyone watches Lu Chaoji, he triggers the other over and over again, and Lu Donglai wishes that he can go above the records from the ancient scroll. Lu Chaoji succeeds in going 9 times, with the glow still around his body. The system notifies Lu Chaoji that he has successfully awakened his attribute of heaven and earth, which is water. Lu Donglai, Hai Ting and Xiao Tu all examine him excitedly, with Lu Dong fussing about him to ask how he is feeling. Lu Chaoji proudly displays his new attribute to them by making water appear in a ball and dispersing it. He tells them that he feels as if the world is clearer than before. The water affinity attribute allows Lu Chaoji to control all forms of water, including the one in the human body, which gives him a great advantage. Lu Chaoji continues to test his new skill around, and Lu Donglai reports that she has cleaned all the marks they left from the attribute awakening and can now head back home. This displeases Lu Chaoji because nobody will be able to see the marks of his miracle, but Lu Donglai explains that they need to lay low for safety reasons. On the way home, Lu Chaoji levels up 5 times with a cup of water, which is an astonishing attempt. Ning and Yu Yu try to think of the ways that Lu Chaoji must have used to achieve this impossible task as they watched from a distance. After thinking for a while, Yu Yu tells Ning that he must have withheld himself from leveling up all the while for this moment. Lu Chaoji has been building his cultivation skills for many years, instead of giving up on himself or getting stuck in the beginner's rank, which has now contributed to helping him go through 5 levels at once. Xiao Tu equally moves to rank 1 cultivator while they were still flying home, which completes the elevation of the Mo sect to another level of advancement. Lu Chaoji excitedly smashes the advancement button on the system, and rewards pour in for the sect. With the experience points, he plans to level up his sword skills and other skills in every aspect. As Lu Chaoji continues to think of the new feat they have just achieved, he thinks of renaming himself to Flawless Charmer, just as Yu Yu is called the Flawless Swordsman. Just then, he is notified of a new mission for the sect, but the mission will be a hassle. Lu Chaoji thinks of taking more disciples because of the reward that comes with it. But he remembers that Hai Ting should have had his breakthrough long ago and summons him. Hai Ting has remained a quiet person since Lu Chaoji rescued him from his village, because the villagers thought he was cursed and will kill a lot of people in future. Being an orphan, he had nobody to defend him, so Lu Chaoji took him as his sword-bearer. The villagers opposed his idea, but he vows to take responsibility for whatever happens in the future because of Hai Ting. In all this, Hai Ting did not speak, and has not spoken much since then. Even though he keeps saying that he has no obligation to care for Hai Ting, Lu Chaoji has looked out for him since he was a child, which is why he is ready to help him break through. He calls Hai Ting to his side and tells him to use the light within him to achieve his desires. Hai Ting took the positive words, and just by looking at the skies, he broke through the beginner's rank. For the level up, Lu Qiujie gets a notification from the system that he has been rewarded with 5,000 experience points. Lu Qiujie commends himself for being a great teacher, and Xiao cheers for him. Lu Qiujie used his attribute to dispel the mental barrier around Haiting's heart, which is how he was able to help him. Yu admires Lu Qiujie's abilities and how he can achieve something like that. Lu Donglai notes that since Haiting and Lu Qiujie have attained their attributes, it will be easier to travel on an item. Lu Qiujie thinks of getting an item from Ning because of his recent achievement. He tells Donglai to descend to a place where he can treat everyone as something good because of his good mood. As getting them to a safe place, Donglai runs off to catch 2 fish for the meal, and Haiting lays a table while they were waiting. Lu Qiujie offers to teach Xiao about her cultivation. Donglai sees her brother and Xiao and shouts in horror that she has been infected. After eating the food that Lu Qiujie prepared, they traveled back home amidst a light-hearted argument between Zhang Qiu and her master, Donglai. Lu Qiujie remembers how he learned to make good Chinese dishes from somebody just to gain favors from him. Ning and Yu meet with them at the entrance of the house, pretending to have been waiting for them even though they followed them on the trip. Lu Qiujie cheerfully greets them and asks if they have been waiting for long, and Ning congratulates him on his breakthrough. Ning acts in such a flawless manner that nobody will easily believe that she followed them. Qiujie seizes the opportunity to make his request for a leaf boat, and Ning grudgingly accepts to give him. Qiujie teases Yu to see his reaction as they all enter the house, but he only smiles awkwardly. Donglai and Qiujie took turns in asking Ning different questions, and she answers them. She helps Qiujie to decide which of his abilities to develop first, but Yu tells him that it is impossible to master the sword intent quickly. Yu explains that getting into the world of sword intent is difficult and will require a lot of effort because when he did, he was almost between life and death. After all his attempts, Yu was only able to achieve half a step. If Yu could have succeeded, he could have surpassed all the sword sovereigns around. After his explanation, Qiujie got furious because he thinks Yu did not believe in his abilities. Qiujie grew furious to the extent that he promises to kill Yu. While Donglai thinks that Yu must have gone beyond his boundaries, she thinks that he is not at fault. Ning, who has been enjoying the show, asks them to exchange blows to test themselves, but she warns Yu to lower his sword's ability to match Qiujie's own. Yu is the greatest swords cultivator in their generation according to Donglai. This fascinates Xiao, who thinks that Qiujie will win. Yu unsheathes his sword, but Qiujie makes no move to do the same because he thinks lives will be lost. In anger, Yu moves to force him to fight. As Yu inches towards Qiujie, he tells him repeatedly to unsheath his sword and fight back. Qiujie retorts that Yu has refused to unleash his sword intent, but he is taunting him to unsheath his sword. Yu concedes to unleash it, as the two men circle each other in preparation. Sparks of red flames erupt as they both begin to clang their swords in a fight. From her place, Donglai feels a surprise pull from her sword due to the effect of Yu's sword intent. Qiujie mocks Yu that his sword intent is too shabby to affect his sword, and Yu gets more provoked, which ignites more sparks. Different colors of flames burst between them each time he wields his sword. After closely observing Yu for a while, Qiujie finally decides to unlock his sword intent and put his lone sword to use. Yu mockingly calls out to Qiujie to try and catch up with him, but Qiujie does not react. He calmly challenges Yu to everyone's surprise with his sword intent. Yu shouts in disbelief as Qiujie unleashes his complete sword intent in a burst of colors. Yu is utterly stunned and almost emotionless at his defeat because he cannot understand how Qiujie thrashed him with a single move with the sword intent that he has practically been practicing his full life with all his skills and his resources. Yu has had to fight with beasts and masters just to reach his level of success, so he is unable to understand how Qiujie mastered the complete sword intent and even defeated him. Qiujie tells Yu that he should put his sight on higher things since he has the ancient scrolls and high masters to support him. Qiujie reveals that he started understanding the sword's intent the moment he held the sword in his hands, which sends another round of shock to everyone, because none of them would have thought that he has been practicing. Qiujie has been accumulating his experience points, which he exchanged for his abilities. He answers all of Yu's questions until he asks to see Qiujie's sword. Qiujie refuses because his sword has not been unsheathed in 9 years and will only be unsheathed to exact revenge on the monster that killed his parents. Choji takes a walk in the garden and contemplates how Ning and Yu will be staying over with them for a short period, especially since she has to craft an item for him. Ning perceives that someone is talking about her and moves to find out who it is, but she decides to let it be and cast a spell of protection for Choji. As he continues his walk, he feels irritated by Yu's behavior, his false humility, and the fact that he is staying over with Ning. Despite all that, Choji is happy that he has broken through the beginner's realm and will soon earn new skills. Choji walks to the cemetery to meet the former member of the Mo Sect, the benefactor who has been aiding them from generation to generation. He talks to her, but she refuses to answer him until he pays his respect. Each sect leader from different times, including his father, was tasked with appreciating her in different ways. For this time, Choji is tasked with giving her his blood essence, which trains him a lot. The benefactor gives Choji a gift of the purple rank mid-tier item, which makes him happy. Choji offers more of his blood essence in exchange for more volumes of the purple rank mid-tier item, but the benefactor resists and shows no sign of willingness. Choji tries to read the signs by the waves to know what she is saying, but he is unable to do so. The only thing he manages to notice is that she is waving due to the happiness of getting his blood essence. Meanwhile in the house, Dong Lai breaks down in tears of her brother's behavior, and how Xiao Tu is fast learning from him. She wonders what the fate of the Mo Sect will be if he continues in that manner, and not even Xiao Tu could console her. Xiao Tu somehow acquired 30% of Choji's blood essence, which troubles Dong Lai. She tells Xiao Tu that she should stop telling people outside the mountains that she is her disciple. Rather, she should tell them that she is Choji's disciple. Dong Lai thinks of different plans to avoid any future trouble, and concludes that she will not take disciples anymore, but she will train Xiao Tu harder against future attacks. Choji absorbed all the spiritual energy in the air to gain experience points, which painfully scared his flesh. Later, Choji decides to stop because he does not want to throw away his life to gather experience points. Choji flops down on the ground to rest and thinks of many things while at it. Just then, Ning and Yu fly over in the floating item. Ning informs him that the spiritual tool he requested has been completed, and they will now be on their way. Choji focuses on talking to Ning and ignores Yu's desperate attempts to talk to him. He begs Ning to stay for more time, but she is unable to stay because of matters she has to deal with at the Sword Sect. Ning gives him the leaf-light boat she made, which comes with a special effect. Choji adores his gift and thanks Ning for caring about him. She gives him a book with easy methods to learn and instructs him to always practice his cultivation. Choji promises to do so because he will like to live his mother's dream of living for 500 years. The Sword Sect happens to be one of the top 4 sects in the world, leading over 300 sects under them. The Mo Sect is within the lower 100 sects, alongside the Zhengjin Sect, which seeks Choji out. This annoys him to no end. The Zhengjin Sect ranks before the Mo Sect on the rank of all the sects, which is the lower middle class. The Mo Sect took them in at first and has control over them, and another sect within their range, which is why their action gravely offends Choji. In the past, the Mo Sect makes the major decisions and invites all the other sects for a gathering, but the Zhengjin Sect is trying to take advantage, because Choji's father is no more. Choji sends the delivery sword back to the Zhengjin Sect. Meanwhile, the sect leaders are discussing him in the Mo Sect, and hoping that he will cower in fear at their message. Soon, they receive the sword he sent back, which makes them angry that he is not scared. They call a meeting of the 3 sects, but Choji offers to go alone instead of taking Dong Lai along. Dong Lai is angry that her main disciple Lu Bing has gotten her breakthrough, and she rants about it. Choji tells her to be grateful, but she flares up and accuses him of falling. There remembers a memory. A large crowd is bidding over a veiled lady, and the crowd cheers wildly as the bid goes higher in price. The more the crowd cheers, the more pain the girl quietly endures, but she says nothing. Suddenly, Choji emerges and offers to pay the money for her. Most of the crowd thought that he is stupid for wasting his money, but he pays them no mind. Choji tells her keeper that he is not paying for a day but buying and taking her with him. The girl's keeper agrees and sends the girl to him. The girl is Lu Bing, whose parents abandoned her when she was 6 and a brothel took her in. She was taught to read and also do displeasing things for her age. Choji becomes her saving grace on her 11th birthday, which was her first outing. But Dong Lai thinks that she is trying to be her sister-in-law. After the payment, Lu Bing's mistress hands her deed of ownership to Choji, which stirred great envy among the other women and even onlookers. Before the audience, Qiao Ji tore the deed and proclaimed her free from slavery to anybody, much to the dismay of everyone who thought that Qiao Ji was foolish. Dong Lai stepped up to lead her away with them, and Lu Bing made a personal vow to forever follow Qiao Ji everywhere. That day, Lu Bing stepped out of the brothel for the first time since she was taken in. On her way home, Dong Li tries all she could to make Lu Bing comfortable with her, by pointing out places and things to her. Lu Bing admires the beautiful ornaments adorning their path, and Qiao Ji assures her that she will see more beautiful things. Her interaction with Qiao Ji offends Dong Lai, because she wanted all the attention, which made her resent Lu Bing, and from then, she began to act up towards her. Qiao Ji thinks that spending such a huge amount of money in saving Lu Bing is not a waste, but an investment into the future of Sect. In the present time, Lu Bing adorns herself with fine jewelry and clothes, as she awaits Lu Qiaoji's presence. Meanwhile, Dong Lai is in a fierce battle of words with her brother over his insistence to not take her along to the gathering of the three sects. She is even more enraged when she learns that her brother may be taking Lu Bing, and Qiao Ji points out that she is jealous. Dong Li quickly denies her jealousy, and Lu Qiaoji explains that the gathering of the three sects is not a mere meeting, but a place for the sects to display strength, and if he takes her along, she may choose to withhold her strength the way she did before, and Haiting may not be able to withstand such heat. Lu Qiaoji tells her that it is important for the companion of a sect leader to meetings to be pretty to command attention. He invites Lu Bing to the table to inform her of the meeting, and she is all too happy to go with him, because she has been looking for an opportunity to be alone with him. Dong Lai is extremely displeased by all of Lu Bing's moves at the sight of her brother, so she leaves the room in anger. Lu Bing pretends not to know what she has done and appears to be concerned that she may have offended her master, Dong Lai. She quickly offers to pour some tea for Lu Qiaoji instead of allowing his disciple Haiting. Lu Bing uses all the tricks and art that she learned in the brothel to try and get Lu Qiaoji to notice her as she pours the tea, but he merely ignores her tact and collects the tea. But Lu Qiaoji is not blind to what she is trying to do, because he has seen and grown immune to all the tricks in his previous life. His lack of reaction to her tricks worries Lu Bing, who thinks that she is an expert in such matters because of her brothel training. For the 3 days leading up to the gathering of the three sects, Lu Bing stays around Lu Qiaoji's house and practically displaces Haiting from his duties. She looks for every opportunity to present herself to the master. It is the day of the gathering of the three sects, and Lu Qiaoji travels with Lu Bing on the flying boat made by Ning for him. He thinks of how Dong Lai behaved rudely by not seeing them off, because she is still angry and promises to address her issue when he gets back home. Meanwhile, Lu Bing fantasizes about him and enjoys being alone with him for the first time since she entered the household. In her fantasy, she mistakenly says her inappropriate thoughts, which catch Qiaoji's attention, and he asks her to repeat what she has said. Fearfully, she changes the words to affect his pride, as she has learned in the brothel, telling him that she said he is amazing and will outshine others at the gathering. As they continue their journey, Qiaoji observes that Lu Bing's childhood education has affected her in a way that she is not used to being free yet. She serves him like a servant, and he tells her that she does not need to address him with so much courtesy. Just then, they arrive at the location, and another sect arrives after them. Lu Qiaoji tells Lu Bing that there is no need to greet the newcomers because they have only been sent to pick a fight with them. The two representatives of the other sect stood in a threatening manner, meant to scare Lu Qiaoji, because their master sent them to bully him. Lu Qiaoji did not take the bait but merely watched them to see what they will do. Seeing that their plan to intimidate him is not working, the two disciples switch to their second plan of appearing humble, so that he will not find faults with them. Lu Qiaoji in his brilliance easily saw through their tactics, so he neither fell for it nor accepted the bait. Qiaoji quietly activates one of his skills to test their strength, and they react to it. The male disciple boasts that Lu Qiaoji is slow in his cultivation. They deliver the message from their sect leaders that they have been a division of the lands. Without waiting for them to finish their message, Lu Qiaoji activates his power of heaven and earth technique, and with just the move of his finger, he defeats the male disciple. The male disciple lays screaming on the ground, and he begs his female companion to help him tend to his bleeding leg, but she is nervous and scared that Lu Qiaoji may turn back and strike her on the head. She is astonished at Lu Qiaoji's aura, against the stories she has heard of him as a weak sect leader. Contrary to her fears, Qiaoji did not turn back. He simply walks away with Lu Bing, who cannot stop singing his praises. As Lu Bing serves Qiaoji's tea, she starts to flatter him, but he knows he must not indulge her so that she will not start getting ideas. The female disciple hurriedly backs the male disciple and fled to report to her masters at the Jin sect. Outside their house, she cries for help and other disciples take the man from her. Inside, they met their masters discussing how they will make sure all the lands will become theirs. The disciples narrate how Lu Qiuji defeated them with just a flick of his finger, and the possibility of him using the power of heaven and earth. The female disciple informs her masters that she heard that a genius triggered the power of heaven and earth 9 times just a few days before that day. That day, her master saw the signs of the 9 rings and was tempted to go and see for himself and possibly recruit the person into his sect if he is from a smaller sect, but he was unable to do so because a big cultivator stood in his way. With the realization that Lu Qiuji is the one with that great power, and that he has someone watching over him, the Jin sect master understood that he is doomed because he has no way of comparing to such a person. The female master quickly thinks of a way out to liberate herself and form a possible alliance with Lu Qiuji using her beauty and charm, but she has to get the old man out of the way. The male master informs his disciples to gather the sect elders so that they will negotiate the resources to surrender to the Mo sect. In his resting place, Qiuji thinks of how to level up Mo sect's points in the system. Back at home, Dong Lai bothers herself with thinking about what our brother and Bu Ling, which she calls the sinful disciple, must be up to. She thinks of ways to punish them if they get into any form of affair, but quickly calls herself to order because as an elder of the Mo sect, she is supposed to be concerned with the deliberations at the gathering of the sect instead of her brother and Bu Ling. Dong Lai is so distracted in her thoughts that she does not pay attention to Xiao Ku's lessons. She blames Xiao Ku for not doing it right, and Xiao Tu murmurs for receiving the blame for her master's fault. Xiao Tu asks Dong Lai if she can be going out with Qiuji, and once again, it annoys her that her disciples are always drawn to her brother instead of herself. Dong Lai rebukes Xiao Ku's request, telling her that she is a closed-door disciple and not allowed to go out. Because she was too strict, she decides to comfort the young child who has suddenly grown quiet for offending her master. Just then, someone from the Sword Sect shows up. The Sword Sect is an extraordinary sect that uses swords. They have 3 categories of disciples, which are the outer disciples, inner disciples, and direct disciples. Each level uses different swords, from bronze swords to silver swords and gold. The disciple that arrives at the Mo sect is a direct disciple, who is of higher status and probably serves one of the elders or even the sect leader of the Sword Sect. Dong Lai tries to gauge the extent of his power so that she will know the best way to approach him, and resolves to engage him by hiding her real strength to see what he will do. The Sword Sect disciple, Chen Xiao, waits in the sky without coming down because he is expecting someone from the Mo sect to welcome him. After waiting without a welcome, he angrily descends from the sky. Dong Lai observes him from afar and notices that he is just as proud as his brother, but she refuses to grant his wish of receiving a welcome. Just then, Chen Xiao is distracted by the arrival of Qiuji and Bu Ling's beauty, and he rushes over to introduce himself. Chen Xiao thinks highly of himself that he must have created an impression that is stunning to both Bu Ling and Qiuji. Bu Ling blushes at his sleek introduction, but Lu Qiuji merely ignores him and moves away. This greatly enrages Chen Xiao, who hates being ignored, and he asks to know Qiuji. Qiuji turns back and introduces himself as the leader of the Mo sect. Chen Xiao sees him as the leader of a merely small sect that is still beneath him as a disciple of the Sword Sect. Chen Xiao threatens to use the reputation of his sect to pressure Qiuji, but he is unfazed by the threat. Chen Xiao calls him out for being rude to a visitor who is in line to be an elder in a prestigious sect, but this only amuses Qiuji. Qiuji reminds him that he is still a disciple, however he chooses to put it unlike him, who is the leader of a sect. Chen continues to brag at Qiuji, who hides his real cultivation level from him. He allows him to finish what he has to say and reveals the full level of his cultivation. From the ground where Dong Lai is watching the exchange, she is surprised that her brother has broken through and surpassed his previous level. She admits that her brother is great, and no one can compare to him even if they try. Qiuji recalls Chen Xiao from his previous life and how famous he was for always bragging about his potential, which made others dislike him. Though Qiuji is tempted to put Chen Xiao in his place, he decides that he is not worth wasting the experience points that he has gathered over 20 years on. Rather, he will use it to develop his sword intent. Since Chen Xiao was visiting to drop off money, Qiuji decides that he cannot say no to money and ordered Chen Xiao to follow him. The now humble disciple humbly follows him quietly. As they proceeded, Chen Shou remembers his conversation with one of his masters, Yu, who had admitted that there is someone from the lower sect that is his rival. He set out to investigate the matter and concluded that Qiu Ji has to be the rival. Lu Ling calls Qiu Ji's attention to the weird looks that Chen Shou has been giving him from behind. Qiu Ji looks behind him and threatens to cut Chen Shou to pieces if he should try anything ridiculous. Just then, a strong breeze blew in their direction as another person came to pass, which disorients them. Chen Shou tumbles from the air and lands, head first into the ground, just the way Dong Lai and Xiao Tu had predicted that he would. Qiu Ji only feels the breeze on his face, but nothing extreme happens to him like Chen Shou. At the elders' meeting for the Jane Jin sect, the elders get into an intense debate about the right resources to give the Mo sect to get on their good side. As they were still discussing, an elder suggests that they should give them the kind of resources that will not drain them out but will still be beneficial to them. He suggests that they give them a generous amount of good-looking disciples. While some did not agree with his opinion, the female master tries to convince them. Just then, a sword message arrives for them. The female master gives the message to the male master, and they both go through it. The sword message is from the direct disciple of the second elder of the sword sect, which makes them happy because it signifies a great opportunity for them. The master immediately puts a hold on the matter of giving their resources to the Mo sect, because of the new development. He directs his disciples to go in search of the direct disciple that sent the letter to them with whatever tricks they can use to get him. The female master instructs them that they can apply force under special circumstances as long as they bring him to them. The other female disciples discuss amongst themselves about having a direct disciple for a husband, and the kind of honor it will come with. The women continued speculating about who will be favored to be his wife, which makes the male disciples angry. They decided that they will make him swear to brotherhood with them when they find him. At Mo sect, Dong Lai and her disciple Xiao Tu welcome Lu Qiu Ji back from his trip, and Chen Shou regains himself to challenge them for the humiliation. Lu Qiu Ji ushers everyone into his chamber to join him at the table. Chen Shou takes a sit, even though he is not exactly pleased with the situation. But he becomes happy when he notices that Lu Bing will be serving his tea and hopes to perceive her scent. Lu Bing disappoints him by not coming close to pour his tea. Instead, she stands at a far distance and pours his tea, which amuses everyone else at the table. Xiao Ku sees Chen Shou's tea-pouring posture as something she should learn, even though it is weird. Chen Shou tries to console himself that maybe she pours tea in that manner for every man, but she shocks him by going close to Qiu Ji to pour his tea. Chen Shou begins to doubt the significance of his status as a direct disciple to the second elder of the sect, because of the treatment he has been receiving. Qiu Ji makes throaty noises like someone that is trying to avoid any display of amusing emotions. This did not go unnoticed by Chen Shou, as he sarcastically asks if Qiu Ji's throat is feeling well. Demon cultivators are not fearful monsters, but human cultivators who have injected the blood of beasts into their blood. As their blood comes in contact with that of the beast, they begin to desire blood in human flesh as they grow stronger and more enormous. These demon cultivators can multiply in strength and control the beast they are connected to by blood. But in the virtual world, there is little difference from the real-life demon cultivator. Chen Shou provides this information from the sword sect, and equally informs Lu Qiu Ji of the demon cultivator's rank and everything else he needs to know. After completing his speech, he noticed that Lu Qiu Ji looks disappointed, which was not the emotion he was hoping to see. Chen Shou tells him that they found the tracks of the demon cultivator, and he will like Lu Qiu Ji to accompany him to check it out. He purposely puts Lu Qiu Ji up to this task to test his strength and regain his dignity from all the humiliation he has experienced. Lu Qiu Ji accepts his offer, and it even triggers a mission with excellent points for him. Later, Dong Li asks for his meeting and pleads to tag along for the killing of the demon cultivator. If you like this recap, do let me know in the comments, and obviously leave your like too. Do not forget to share with your friends and subscribe. Above all, activate your notification bell so you don't miss the next recap when it drops. Until next time, do take care and stay safe.